Alright, if you don't feel enough or you don't feel like you deserve love in your love life or your relationships, then in this video I am going to explain to you how your shadow keeps sabotaging your life in the relationships and your love life. So, the first thing that we have to know is that what is our shadow, right? Our shadow is actually a part of us that we dislike, a part of us that we bury because we don't want it to be expressed to the world because we're scared our shadow will be seen. We're scared they will see our true self in both positive and negative way because we're scared of the bad response that we're gonna get from those people, either the world through our work or relationships. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about the relationships part. Before we dive into like how does it actually, shows up in our relationship, I want to talk about how the shadow is what we express, what we project, and how we mirror it to the person that we attract in our relationship, to the partner, to the wife that we have in our relationship. First, we tend to actually open up in our relationship, in our love life, right? You're not gonna just be on a surface level if you want a deep relationship with the person that you love, right? You want to open up both internally and externally. And when we open up, we show the parts of us that we don't want to show. And in order for us that to actually survive, we actually have to hide, or we have to bury parts of us so they won't like do something bad on us, right? So they won't end the relationship. An example of this is that if you're a nice guy, basically a people pleaser, or the inability to actually say no to people, to actually have healthy boundaries, you will attract a person with a sort of assertive behavior. If you're a nice guy, you're a people pleaser, you can't say no, you don't have any boundaries, a clear boundaries with someone, then you will attract a woman that is more assertive to you, that have boundaries, that is more stern and more decisive and know how to decide things, right? Just picture yin and yang, right? Yin is you being the person that is more much to the passive version, and her much to the aggressive version, right? It's like north and south. They attract together like that. That's different from masculine and feminine, but this is sort of the behavior that you have within the relationship. You being the nice guy and her being the more assertive version, the more aggressive and decisive version. That we can explain. That's sort of the masculine trait that we get from her. Now, the woman itself, they need to heal themselves as well. They need to know that that's the shadow part that's trying to express in relationship, within your relationship, and they actually have to be conscious and aware of it. That is also sabotaging their relationship with us guys. But us guys, we also should know and be conscious and aware of the shadows. We have to be aware that we have to fix and we have to self-reflect those shadows that we express in our relationships. Your person can be exactly like who you want them to be, like yourself. That's why I said something to do with yin and yang, right? You can't be fully like the person that you are with, or that person can be fully like who you are. 100% no. So if you want to find someone that is exactly like you will never. This is actually fine. But if you're a nice guy like me, you will sabotage your relationships so much. And I've gone through a lot of relationships for this, so I can speak about it directly to you. Now, being a nice guy can come out from two different types of expression, right? Two different types of defenses. When our impulses goes on, when our nervous system goes bad, it can go through two different types of expression and defense mechanism. One is actually controlling, and one is actually withdrawing. The withdrawing is the passive version, and the controlling is the active version, where our shadow is active, right? And withdrawing is also active, but in a passive way. when our shadows is turned on in a passive way. So I'm gonna just give you some examples. Let's say you're in an argument, right? And you are wrong. But when you are wrong, you feel threatened because you're trying to please her throughout the relationship. You're trying to have this transactional love with her, because when you give something, they have to give the same value back. And when you don't get that, you feel unappreciated, right? And so what do? Because you think, oh, I've been giving her this, I've been serving her, I've been pleasing her in a way. And she is like this now in a relationship, in an argument. How come? Right? And then you turn on the shadow and you express your insecurities. You turn on that defense mechanism to actually be more withdrawing, right? You turn it on in a passive way. You start to guilt trip her. You start to manipulate and you start to control, and you said, I'm hurt. Because you're scared that if you're exposed, if you don't accuse her, then you will be vulnerable and you will be seen and exposed as someone that's weak. And so we can also link this sort of problem to the belief system that we gathered, that we received in our childhood or in the past events that we go through. And one of them could be having the wound from the father. Now, maybe I'm going to talk about it in a few seconds, but that's an example of how our insecurity of not being able to be seen as wrong is mirrored to the other person. We sort of tend to put our fears on her. We put our insecurities on her in an argument. So we guilt trip so our fears won't be shown to them. Now, a second thing, it might be also for the controlling part, it might also be if she doesn't respond or reply to your text for a long period of time, right? And you turn to this like jealous, obsessive, possessive person that she actually doesn't want. And so this is the controlling version. This is the active version. So when your shadow is turned on, this is sort of like the active version of when that shadow is turned on. And so of course you also don't want to have this, because you feel threatened and your chest sort of like tightens every time you get this impulses from something that is not good happening in the relationship, which is one of them, which is her not replying to your text for the whole day. And you're like, oh no, is she okay? Like, what is she doing, right? You feel threatened, and your nervous system thinks that everything is a mistake. Your nervous system thinks that you are a mistake, that you're not enough for her, that you did something to her. And so we don't want to have this feeling all through around, right? If we never actually go down on ourselves, we never actually self-reflect, then we will never have the situation or the condition that we are safe in a relationship and that person actually loves us because of who we truly are. And so a third thing, it might be that even with small mistakes, right? Even something small that your partner says or your wife says to you, your reaction is way bigger than the actual situation deserves, right? Like, let's say your wife says something like, oh, you know what? I actually don't like that one. And then you're like, oh, you don't like that one? Oh, blah, 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 oh, blah, blah, blah. You start just like lashing out on her, right? Because your nervous system is telling you to survive. There's something in your childhood trauma or childhood wound that affects this. You might shut down when things doesn't go right, which is like jealous or possessive, right? Or you might withdraw, right? You might close down yourself. You might say that, okay, I feel small, I'm not enough for her, I don't deserve love. This is the passive aggressive behavior. And if you're a nice guy or a people pleaser just like me, you know this. And this will sabotage your relationship very, 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 very much. That's a good news though, because having that shadows sort of like projected or mirrored in a relationship, having a relationship itself are like one of the best arenas for healing our own shadows. When you notice your reaction, when you notice your impulses, your triggers, how you just react to small things that they say, how you react and how you have this defense mechanism of controlling or withdrawing, that's actually the best way for you to actually be conscious and be aware of that and say, oh, okay, that's not me, that's my false self, that's my ego trying to protect my shadow by protecting its belief system that we carry through our childhood trauma, right? Childhood events. That's why afterwards, when we know that we react to those things bigger, right? When we know about our impulses and awareness about all these things, then we're able to trace the roots. Where does this come from? Does it come from the mother? Does it come from the father? Right? What was our belief system back then? When was the last time we felt about this? Right? We have to trace it back to our childhood, and I have a separate video made for that. After we're aware of it, we can slowly allow love to come in from God, from ourselves, and from our partner, right? To touch those hidden places. Then, after you know where does the belief come from, I don't have what it takes to survive in this relationship, then you have to replace the belief with the truth. And so what is the actual truth, right? You don't want to believe that if they see the real me, they will leave me or they won't love me. You have to replace that belief. If you don't, then it will ruin your relationship. I will say it once more because it ruined mine badly. It will ruin your relationship, and you have to understand this so much. And if you don't, you will go through life horribly. And so you have to surrender that problem. You have to surrender being a nice guy. You have to invite God into the wound at last. And so when you invite God into the wound, you will surrender it to Him, because He's the only person that understands you. He's the only person that can father you after your biological father sort of abandoned you or left you or perhaps gone through death. Anything can happen, right? If I were to give like a brief explanation on the father wound, it would be like, because my wound is actually given from my mother. That's the one I felt. Me being the nice guy in the relationship is actually me being a perfectionist, me trying to make things right and not have mistakes in a relationship, because if I do, then I will feel weak and I will feel not worth it. I will not feel like my worth is there. I don't feel like I deserve love, right? And I know that I have love from God and from my partner herself and from people and from everyone. And so perhaps for the father wound part, because my father passed away, my wound would look something like this. Every man carries a wound, right? And in that wound, it hints us a question of, do I have what it takes? Do I belong in this world? And if that question is not answered by your biological father, then you will come out and try to become the nice guy and chase validation and try to pretend to become the man and find strength to become the man from the feminine, from the partner. And so me being the nice guy, trying to please her and trying to protect myself from being exposed or be seen vulnerable, I'm trying to pretend to be the man, because my father is not there to affirm me that I'm a man. Now, this wound, it gets deeper and deeper, and it gets worse when your father sort of abandons you or mistreat you in a single way or is passive to you, right? Not all the wounds are associated with the negative, right? It can also be with the quote-unquote positive, but let's say your father is passive, then you will never actually get the spiritual initiation from your father. That can also turn out to be the nice guy that will shape who you are in your life today and sabotage your relationship over and over again. If you want to learn more about how my mother wound actually shaped who I am today, which results to being a perfectionist, then I have some video somewhere here that I'm gonna link. Oh, it's getting dark in the background. I have a video over here that I'm gonna link to, and yeah, I'll see you in another video. Goodbye.